Oh, what's up, GameLeapers? This is Coach Eags. In today's video, the 3 most broken champions for each role in patch 13.15. And these champions, guys, if you pick them, you are going to have a better chance of winning, but that goes without saying that you really need to learn how to play these champions properly. You can pick one of these OP champs, but why does that matter when you've only got 10 games under their belt? It's not going to mean anything, right? You're still going to lose the game. So to actually know how to play these champions, we have all the champion courses and guides you will ever need on our website at GameLeap.com. Link down below in the description and comment section, mate. If you want to stay hard stuck and keep blaming it on something in the meta, be my guest. But even if these champions get nerfed and they become 45% win rate champions, because you know how to play the champion and the matchups that you might be in, you will still have incredibly good win rates because you understand the champ and how to play the game. So to actually get to that level, that challenger level of playing this game, all you have to do is sign up to our website to get exclusive access to our challenger library of content. So yeah, away you go, click those links, and let's get into the 3 most broken for each role. Now we'll do something different here and we'll start in the bot lane. So first of all, we're going to start talking about the 3 most broken AD carries. Now the first of these is getting nerfed in 13.15, but the AP iteration of this champion is getting nerfed, not the AD version. So if you're going AP Kai'Sa at the moment, which lots of people are, she's by far the most popular champ in the game, right? And she's picked in like close to 50% of games in high elo, then you're going to be worse off in 13.15 just because AP Kai'Sa is getting nerfed. So your Q is going to deal less damage based on the AP you have, even though this isn't actually like the most important ability for AP Kai'Sa, because you're actually evolving this last, because you have no attack damage until like 3-4 items. But the point is here is that your Q is getting nerfed. So in the late game, you're not going to do as much damage, but also your W is getting nerfed as well in terms of the cooldown, right? So this means that AP Kai'Sa, you are going to be a tiny bit worse off as far as the AP goes. And even though they're also nerfing your HP in the early game, your base HP, the best way to play this champion, even at the moment, is actually to play on-hit kind of attack damage, attack speed Kai'Sa with lethal tempo. So attack damage Kai'Sa is actually performing better even right now, and it's kind of slept on. It'll definitely become more popular next patch because AP Kai'Sa is getting nerfed, but Kai'Sa with the engaged meta guys in the bot lane right now for her passive, it's unreal, and she has so many strong synergies with the best supports that we'll get into very soon. So Kai'Sa number 3, just be careful about blind picking her because you don't really want to run into something like a Lucian, a Aphelios, a Xayah. There are lots of bad matchups for you, so ideally you want to pick Kai'Sa when you have a really strong support and the enemy AD carry is something like maybe an Ezreal or a Jhin, someone who isn't going to hard bully you during the laning phase so you can outscale them, and GG easy. Now second best AD carry, this is Draven. Now if you're going Trinity Force Draven still, it's absolutely cracked. Or what you can do is go like Infinity Edge Draven, rushing like a Collector or something like this. There is still Lethality Draven out there, where you can build something like Dustblade. Ghostblade is actually still okay on him, and you can still build like Essence Reaver into one of those Lethality items. So there are so many builds for Draven, but just because like lots of these champions, Draven is innately broken, he's one of the strongest AD carries, even if we're not talking about builds. It's just the fact he can abuse lots of these strong items more than the other ADCs on top of it. So Draven number 2, just be careful again about maybe blind picking this guy because there are a lot of champions that do well into him. So Caitlyn getting buffed in 13.15 and Ashe does well into him, something like a Ziggs as well, Karthus, because he is kind of close range, he wants to get in there. So maybe consider that too, just before locking him in. But the number 1 AD carry guy is someone who I just mentioned who does well against Draven and would do well against Kai'Sa because she's good in lane, she scales well, she brings utility to a team composition. This is Ashe. And really Ashe with a Kraken Slayer rush, cheap shot in your runes, with lethal tempo of course is your keystone, so cheap shot and the domination tree is your secondary tree, and then getting a Trinity Force after your Kraken Slayer. Man, this champion is so cracked with this setup. The actual enhanced damage you deal because of cheap shot, this synergy that has with your frost shot, it is unreal, and because your passive has been buffed so much in recent times, ADC Ashe, check the win rates for me in like every single elo, the best AD carry for another patch. She's not getting nerfed in 13.15. Now if we stay in the bot lane guys and talk about the supports here, number 3, this is Thresh. Probably the most difficult support to play maybe, but he's so broken where like even in lower elos where people might not be able to play this champion and max juice, he's still doing really well according to the statistics. So this is telling me that Riot have just buffed Thresh to the point where even people like first timing him can have a great chance of winning because he is so strong right now. He's also very good blind pick support. Yes, there might be some difficult matchups, so you probably want to ban something like a Blitzcrank because he really does like just cuck your champion. Because Thresh isn't really like a pure tank, getting Blitzcrank hooked, you've got no real means to like getting in there. You actually kind of want to like play at range and play as like a disengaged support with your Flay for the most part. Of course, against Enchantresses, you want to be like landing your death sentence and going in hot. But for the most part, man, like Thresh is staying back, keeping their AD carry alive with their lantern. That's how you want to play him. So Blitzcrank really does upset you. But anyway, Thresh number 3. Let's move on to number 2. This being Rakan, who's a champion Thresh would do very well against, and something like a Janna would do well against, right? A Rel, a Leona. Anyone who would appreciate a champion jumping into them in kind of like a telegraph way. Because Rakan's W is actually kind of easy to counter. Even something like a Draven, right, can just E him backwards, almost like an Alistar W. So there are some matchups that might be annoying for Rakan, but he's so versatile, man. You don't have to go in. You can just use your W to peel your AD carry or your team. You can change CC people with your ultimate. Pair this with your W, Flash, Shirelias, the movement speed, the gap closing. You can punish enemies very quickly when they make a mistake. And your mobility with your E, even if you miss your W, you can probably always escape, right? So this champion, I think he's really overloaded at the moment. I wouldn't be surprised if he gets nerfed in future patches. Now, number 1, the best support, guys, this is Rel for another patch. Rel may have been nerfed in 13 and 14, but in 15, guys, she's untouched. And guess what? That means her CC is all still there, man. The chaining, the amount of CC you have, of course, and the win rates, she is off chop still and will be for the next 2 weeks. Now, moving into the mid lane here, let's continue upwards. So coming into number 3 with a champion who got giga buffed in 13-14, who's this? This being Lissandra, mate. More slow in your Q for like everything it hits, dear me. Also more HP in your ultimate, makes you like unkillable when you do press R. And according to the stats, right, they just back this up. Lissandra being a top 3 mid. I'd just be a little bit careful. Again, there are some champions here you don't probably want to blind pick. I think Lissandra is in that category. There are lots of champions in the mid lane who do well against you. Ideally, you want to be picking her into assassins you see you like jumping in. Use your W, your ultimate. It completely rips them. Now, number 2, probably the best all-around mid laner, this being Neeko. There are no nerfs for this champion, right? And Neeko, in every single elo, man, honestly is like probably objectively speaking the best mid laner, but the number 1 mid laner we're about to get into is just way more annoying, and I'd definitely rather play against Neeko than the number 1 champion, and you can probably guess who that is right now. But yeah, for Neeko, you still have all the AP in your kit. Yes, they may have nerfed you recently, like a couple of patches ago, but this hasn't deterred you from being one of the strongest mids. And yeah, in every single elo, she does really well, so consider picking her up or keep on playing her if she's already in your champion pool. Number 1 mid laner, who is this? Who could be the most annoying champion in the game, bro? Think about it. Static Shiv got nerfed in 13-14, I know this, but they didn't nerf the AP ratio in this, any of the AP in it. Yes, the wave clear might have got nerfed in terms of the electroshock damage, but for a champion like LeBlanc, where you go fleet footwork, pair this with Static Shiv into Night Harvester, bro, has anyone played against this? Like, if you don't think this is the most broken champion in the game, you have not laned against one. It is so frustrating. Now, I understand that some players who you play against might not know how to play the champion, but bro, go and watch someone in high elo play it. It is so obnoxious. It's impossible to actually like really damage if they know how to play it properly. Also, the damage you deal and the consistent damage, it feels like she is uncounterable and unversable. She is that frustrating to verse. I'm fully expecting Static Shiv, at least in 13-16 anyway, to get completely gutted for AP champions because it is pretty unhealthy for the game, especially if there is a little Blanc in it. Now, moving into the jungle here, guys. Number 3, a champion who got nerfed last patch. This being Rengar. So your Q got nerfed as far as the crit damage goes, and you're also losing a bit of base HP regen, but that's really for top lane Rengar. For jungle, it means nothing. And for jungle as well, you can still go Essence Reaver. You're still going to one-shot everyone because the crit nerf wasn't nearly enough to really deter Rengar players and discourage you from going that build. You still have enough damage there, but there are other interesting builds if you want to go like Dustblade into Axiomark, Dustblade, Prowler's Core, Edge of Night, something like this, right? Full out lethality. You don't even have to go Essence Reaver anymore. So there are a bunch of options for Rengar. Ghostblade is still really good if you're really snowballing and you want to get somewhere out on the map. So consider these options when you're playing Rengar in 13-15, still going to be nutty. Now, number 2, a champion more nutty than Rengar. This is Rek'Sai, who does very well against Rengar, does well against Kha'Zix, these popular junglers, right? And because Stridebreaker, because of how it's so good right now, and Rek'Sai as well is still holding on to all the buffs she got in 13-11, the recent nerfs, man, haven't really meant too much. Yes, you probably want to go a bit more bruisery because they changed your E to like total attack damage, right? No longer bonus attack damage, so your total AD, that matters more for Bruiser Rek'Sai, so after Stridebreaker, you can always go for something like Black Cleaver, and then a bit more like kind of Bruiser, tanky after that. But yeah, the champion, man, is performing at such a high level, still, despite the nerfs. So she's number 2. But honestly, guys, the number 1 champion in the game and the number 1 jungler for another patch, this has got to be Kindred, bro. This champion, I know I said W max in yesterday's video. You can actually still do that, by the way. I'm not even trolling there. Like, if you look at the stats, it actually has higher win rates than going Q max Kindred. Reason being is because the cooldown going lower. Like, you actually notice this at level 9 in particular, when you're probably going to have Trinity Force. You can spam this and be super aggressive. Anyway, what I'm saying, guys, is that Kindred with Trinity Force is incredibly good still. Of course, you can still go like PTA with a Kraken Slayer Rush, Rush. You can go Trinity Force if you're going Conqueror into something like Black Cleaver with Send after that, right? The attack speed, the scales well with your W. That's really important. But yeah, despite Kindred getting nerfed, the Q cooldown going up by a second and also the damage going down, you got your base armor back and also HP back last patch, which is kind of like helped you or compensated for those Q nerfs in the early game, and you're scaling with Trinity Force. Despite those changes or nerfs that we thought were going to hit Trinity Force, they've actually been even better for you. So Kindred, top of the charts, she's the #1 jungler. Now moving into the top lane, guys, and if you are enjoying our recent videos, please remember to let us know by leaving a like down below. And number 3, if you want to completely destroy the top lane, mate, with the new Ghost that is lasting longer now, yes, you're not going to get the refund on it from kills and assists, but who needs that when you're just versing one champion in the top lane, and even if you get ganked, like, you're still going to have it for the duration of the fight, because 15 seconds, man, is easily enough for Olaf to chop Viking his way to a win. Easy. This champion hasn't really been touched, and with the new Ghost lasting longer, with his undertow, approach velocity, very difficult man to beat in the top lane. Number 2, though, a champion who might be able to compete with Olaf, this is Fiora. Do I have to explain this more? I don't think so. The new Trinity Force, you can actually go if you want to. You can go Divine Sunderer into tanky champions. You can go Gore Drinker. Stridebreaker is actually still really good and underrated on her. And this champion, honestly, being uncounterable, unless you're a Quinn one-trick, bro, just get me out. I've got to talk about her for another patch, and there she is, number 2 for the top lane in 13-15. But the #1 top laner, guys, in 13-15, despite copping nerfs, next patch, this is going to be Aatrox. And for Aatrox in 13-15, yes, you're losing a bit of AD ratio in your Q. Is this going to matter? Honestly, no. That's why he's #1 still. He's probably the best top laner right now, like all around. You can blind pick him. He does well into pretty much every single matchup. I have to be a little bit careful playing against Aurelias, stuff that can gap close and dodge your stuff like a Riven for sure. In fact, I'd even ban something like a Riven if I were you. But Aatrox, man, great all-around champion because of the recent buffs to him, whether it's like your minion damage, your Q's damage, of course. If you're good at Aatrox as well, landing your Q in your sweet spot, it deals even more damage. And with also the buffs to his items, so whether it's something like Steris Gauge, Spirit Visage, any of those, really good options as well. So Aatrox is the #1 top laner for a consecutive patch here. Guys, thank you so much for watching this video. Those were the 3 most broken champions for every single role in the game. I will see you in tomorrow's upload. Thank you so much for watching. This has been Coach Cheeks. Peace.